how you want to sit. Yeah, you're good.
Welcome to the PSA playbook. We're sick.
Yeah, does that work?
I feel like we can bond over our experiences.
Welcome to the PSA Playbook, the podcast where we explore the world of youth sports, from the nuances of player development and coaching strategies to parenting perspectives and the psychology of performance. This is your weekly guide to exploring and navigating the youth sports landscape and creating confident, capable young athletes on and off the field. Our guest today, Patrick Mehlert. Welcome, brother.
Hello.
Hey, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you for coming. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Patrick Mehlert. I'm from the DC area. Grew up in the DMV. Grew up playing soccer with Bethesda Soccer Club, Potomac Soccer Club. Played high school soccer. Went on to play for American University.
D1. Let's go.
And then got into youth coaching for Bethesda Soccer Club, and now I'm the assistant at American University. So
Awesome,
yeah.
man. So we have two college coaches in the building now.
Well,
Former.
Retired athlete over here.
So we're going to start with like the youth stuff. Are there some like trends that you see in youth soccer that excite you or that you're worried about? Anything?
Yeah. I'll start with stuff that is that you do kind of worry about.
Mm-hmm.
I think in today's like age, I'm sure you guys have seen it. You started kind of seeing it, even when I was playing, but I think a lot of the like parents play a large role, and kids as well. But like more so, like if a kid doesn't get what he wants, what does he do? He goes home. He could complain to the parent.
Yeah.
What does the parent do? Well, it's like
go into parent mode.
Exactly, right away. It's like if my kid isn't getting what he wants, well, it's not my kid's problem. Something's wrong.
Yeah.
And usually they point the finger at who, the coach.
Yeah.
And so, I've seen that it can get to a point where I don't think we're teaching the right values at times. And it's not just the parents. It could be like some coaches. There's trainers as well. Hey, you're not getting what you want. You should go find something somewhere else. So I don't think it teaches the right things. Like kids can quit and go other places.
Yeah.
Kind of, it's almost in a way it's similar to like even the college game at times. I know we're talking about youth, but it's like there's so many avenues now and options to like, oh, you don't get what you want, you can leave.
Yeah, for sure.
For example, like the transfer portal, which like in a way there are definitely some advantages and definitely some like great opportunities from it. But I also feel like, oh, you didn't play, you weren't happy with your playing time. Well, I'm gonna leave.
Yeah.
And no one really, I think kids don't fight through, or players don't fight through, that adversity at times, and they come out stronger in the end.
So what would be like your advice to like upcoming coaches like through the youth level to try and teach the kids? Like, I know you can't do much impact at home, but how do you teach the kids like, yeah, you didn't play much, but be excited for this, that, and that? What would you kind of like give the advice for a coach to try and combat that barrier?
Yeah, I think it is part of the coach's responsibility to help in terms of like, show that there is like light at the end of the tunnel. Like, all right, you're not doing as good as you are right now. You're not getting the playing time you might want, but you're a part of this team, and you're a part of this team for a reason. You do have value. You do have a role, and I think that is also like part of the coach's responsibility is to make sure every player on the team has a role and feels like they have a role. When players don't feel like they have a role, that sometimes they leave. Now, of course, some players and parents are thinking like, well, yeah, you might say he has a role, but like he's not playing, so he doesn't have a role, so he's leaving.
Yeah, they're just counting the minutes, they're not counting.
Exactly.
Yeah, in college we had a lot of that where a lot of my teammates, like, they knew they weren't to the highest ability to be a starter player or be like a 60-minute player, but we call them super subs. We had kind of had that environment of like, we were that cohesive as a team that like, even though some of the girls only played 10 to 25 minutes, like they still knew their role in a team. So I'm just wondering, like, as a youth coach, like, we had conversations today with some parents about like they're only counting the minutes, and it's crucial like to understand like the environment they're in and like kind of like settling into the new team. What do you think about like brand new players coming into new teams, whether it's youth, whether it's college level, and seeing you know, the standard's so high, like being a bit nervous, like how do I get to that level when they've only had 5 minutes on the field?
Right. And I feel like, so I've seen a lot of, I guess, like trialists come into clubs,
Right.
It's like, how do you, you know, make an impact right away to feel that, like, show the club, show the coach, show the team that, like, oh, like, this player has value.
Yeah.
All right. So it's tough because it's like, yeah, you only have X amount of time to showcase yourself. And sometimes I think players, they try to do too much and do things that aren't, you know, within their ability. I think they have to play to their strengths as much as possible. Don't try to do things that, like, you know, you're not known for, you know, or your strengths. If it's like, if you don't have a great range of pass, you know, if you're not a great ball striker,
Don't try to hit those long balls.
Why are you trying to hit this huge, long diag?
Yeah.
You know, if you're not you're not the fastest, or you're not like the quickest, and but you're trying to be like a 1v1 guy and try to run past guys, well, that's not really going to help you.
Yeah, play to your strengths, definitely. Like I said on the last episode, I was like, I wasn't fast centre back, so I got really smart at like reading the ball because I didn't want to sprint or run or do anything more than a walk, really. So I tried to play to my strengths, and I think we're trying to teach the young kids in our travel program now is like, what you're really good at, keep doing it. Like, don't lose that baseline of it.
Yeah.
But then there's also, we don't call them like weaknesses, you call them like areas of improvement.
Sure.
Because you don't want them to be like, oh, I have all these weaknesses, but I'm only good at one thing.
Yeah.
So
it changes from, like, obviously being very, very young to what you work with now, but there's the more competitive kids that want to be on, like, the college track and want to play at the highest level. But there's obviously being a very, very competitive club. But at the younger ages, it's definitely what we've found, an education process for the parents as well. Because like you say, the parents, you practice twice a week or 3 times a week, whatever it is. The parents spend the vast majority of the time with these kids, and the messages that they're getting sometimes aren't positive and maybe don't align with what the coaches is saying. So for us at the younger ages, it's important to have like a collaborative process with the parents. Let them know what we're working on. Let them know the things that you're talking about there. You're not playing. This is the reason why you're in sports. Deal with adversity. How can you come out the other side better? And again, I think self-reflection is huge. There's very, very little like players looking at themselves and saying, okay, I haven't done enough. I don't work hard enough in these situations or in practice or in off season. Maybe I don't deserve to like play and things. But obviously we work with very, very different kids. The next question is the difference between being someone who plays multiple sports, or I guess when is that stage where you need to specialize in becoming a one sport athlete? I mean, kids that we work with play baseball, basketball, flag football, everything. Yeah. When do they need to make that determination?
It's tough because I feel like it could vary on sometimes from kid to kid.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, because there are some kids who are just naturally gifted athletes that can play multiple different sports, and then there's some that aren't, and so that they need to like maybe focus on it and like perfect that craft, maybe or devote more of their time earlier. But at the end of the day, and I also think it depends on like what level you aspire to be at. Right. You know, if you just want to be like a high school, you know, a varsity player, you know, you can still play multiple sports.
Sure. For sure.
But if you're trying to be like a college player, or a Division I player, like, yeah, you might need to devote more of that time and start considering one sport as you get to those high school ages.
Around high school?
Yeah, I would say. Not even, I mean, yeah, like U14, U15 is probably like, you know, those are like key, because like that's an age, you know, I was just at Austin FC, you know, touring their facilities and working with their coaches, and they talk about it as like, you know what, U13 to U15 it's a very important time, but like it's still like we want the kids to enjoy what they're doing.
For sure.
And don't want to put like too much stress on it. But, you know, once it's like U15 and they start going through that whole year, well, U16 and on, that's when they're starting to consider kids as like, are these potential professional players?
For sure.
And that's when, and so you know, obviously there's ranges and whatnot, and you can say, and it's relative to like what level you want to play at, but I would say that like yeah, it's at that age, U15, is usually when you want to make a decision.
Right.
Yeah, probably the latest.
It gets younger and younger every year, the recruitment, and kids see these clubs overseas that are recruiting and signing players at like 10 years old, 12 years old now, which probably doesn't help because the parents are thinking, I need to like start this so early. But I guess like for serious player development, you obviously, kids are different and mature at different times and stuff. But when is that like serious player development? Because we think about it as U9 to U12 before you get to 11 aside should be fun, should be enjoyment, should be learning these different things. But I guess when is there a switch that needs to flick for serious player development?
Yeah, for serious player, I would say it's probably gonna be like U14, U15.
Yeah.
But like at the end of the day, you know, if they're playing other sports, like they can still benefit from those sports and bring it to like the pitch, soccer. Right. You know, like there's so many things like playing basketball, playing football. Like, you know, there are professional players right now that played other sports growing up. You know, and it just helps you with specific actions. You know, like heading, for example, you know, reading the flight of a ball, you know, timing your jump, like basketball, volleyball, you know, football, baseball, all those require like those types of actions, right? So I think like, you know, even though you're not just focused on like one sport, you can still learn a lot and add to your game through actions of different sports.
For sure.
I feel like the mental side of it comes in as well, especially for youth like players, because it's like I have a girl on my team right now that she loves basketball and loves soccer, and every time I talk to her I'm like, oh, stay in soccer. And then recently I've just been figuring out like what does she enjoy more, because I feel like to be the top player you don't want to have to, it's like going to work every day and absolutely hating your job. Like you want to be able to show up to practice and you're like, I cannot wait to go to practice. I cannot wait to be, because I feel like you perform better. So is there also that like mental side that we're forgetting as coaches, even though they're so young, like we spoke about, like the sponges, they'll take in everything and they do have their own personalities. It's like also that psychological side of it of like, what do they enjoy more? Yeah, they might play 4 sports. It might be beneficial like physically and like, you know, the like IQ of a sport, but like what do they enjoy the best? Like, is that considered as well? Or is it just like, you're better at this sport than this sport, so you should do that sport? Right.
No, I think that's a great point. I mean, like, yeah, it's at the end of the day, you have to enjoy what you're doing and enjoy the sport you're playing. And like, if you don't like playing soccer, if you love playing basketball, but you're really good at soccer, well, like, how long down the road are you going to play soccer and be like, what am I doing? Yeah. You know?
Because it could get to a point where, like, you get to U15 and everyone's told you're the best soccer player, but you show up every day and then you start having these conversations with colleges and, like, academies and, like, higher-end, like, soccer clubs. But then every day the kid's going to practice and he's like, do I have to? He just wants to go play pickup basketball over playing a high-end, high level of soccer. It's definitely a question that I'd rather ask my kids if I was a parent than, but I guess that's a different
Absolutely.
side.
And I also feel like, you know, like if a kid, sometimes, you know, if they have a balance, they play soccer and basketball and they are very good at soccer and maybe it's their first sport. And basketball could be their secondary sport, but it's if they put too much stress on soccer and they go to soccer and they don't have a good session, and then they're like, that sucked, I'm not good, then it's going to negatively affect them if they just focus on soccer. But if they really like basketball and they don't have a good soccer session and they leave and then they can release playing like a different sport or something that they enjoy, I think it helps, you know, that balance where it's like it almost can take your mind off a little bit, you know. As a player coach now, it's like, and you probably know, it's like if I don't have a good day, obviously I'm going to like work on, or if I don't have a good session or whatever, I'm going to focus on that and work on that. But also like I need time for myself to like, you know, release and like not go crazy over these things,
decompress, you know? Over the session you just had.
I think that's like, extremely important. So like, what do?Maybe I'll go, you know, call Ricky up and come play some golf or something, you know?
Go play tennis. Tennis is your new spring sport.
I've got a couple. I guess what is the role of like the coach in creating that passion? Because you find sometimes at the younger ages the parent will come and say, oh, he's loving basketball right now, or he's loving soccer right now. A lot of the times we think the coaches play a role in that. So the kids that are good at these variety of sports, because at a young age they're very athletic and whatever. what role does like the parent and the coach have in making those determinations and like creating the passion for maybe that one or those two that they focus on?
Yeah. Well, I think it's hard to create passion within someone. All right. I think that's hard. I think that has to come from within. Having said that, like parents and coaches, they're there as, you can almost say, like, I don't want to say servants, but like, yeah, in a way, like they're there to like serve and support. Coaches are there obviously to make it enjoyable, and they can't neglect any player. I feel like that they have to, you know, attend to every single player to make sure everyone's right. Because at the end of the day, if, you know, one player is having a day and not doing well, it can bring the session down, the team down, in a way, definitely. Right? So I think it's really important on the coach to make sure that everybody is having a day, and if they're not, it's like, you tend to them a little bit more. Especially at the younger ages, I think it's massive. It's very important to make the session competitive, right? But also like fun and whatnot. And there's different ways I think they can do that. Definitely, you can make things competitive. You can have your own little twist to it. But like making it fun and developing is also like having different competitions within the session. I think, and at the end of the day, it is a competitive sport. So like if they're in it, like the kids should enjoy that, right? For parents, it's different. I feel like for parents, you're just there. I don't think you can't push it on them. You can't push it on a kid. You know, as you guys have probably seen it, the parent who is, you know,
overbearing.
Yeah, you're doing this. We're working on this right away when we get home or something like that. Well, the kid's gonna just he's gonna be like, "What the heck, Dad?" or "What the heck, Mom?" You know, and he's not gonna enjoy it. And then the next thing you know, he burns out. You know, you've seen that before. I think as a parent, you have to like show the kid, teach the kid that like this is competitive and you're gonna have to like fight through this if you want this. If you want it bad, like you have to like deal with these moments, right? But I don't think you can push it on them at all. I think the best players in the world, it's within them, right? Not even best players in the world. They choose to be there, don't they? You know? Sure. It's not a parent saying, you know, you're doing this. I think the parents can support it by where if the kid says, hey, like, I want to do this, can you be there for your kid? Yeah. Absolutely. I think that's how it should be done. Yeah.
I think the coordination between like parents and coaches talking, like I love when my parents come and ask me questions because like that shows that they're like as involved in the sport as the kid. And it's like at the end of the day, like especially at like the U9 to U12 like age, it's like half the time we forget, like, it's not the kid that's late to practice, it's the parent. Things like that. Yeah. It's like the parent's choice. And, like, I agree with you, like, the passion, like, and the choice to be at practice, the choice to give 100% is the kids at the end of the day. And that's what we were speaking about, like, when you're on the field, past the white lines, like, it's not me, it's you guys. And, like, I speak with my U14 girls and I tell them, like, I'm giving 100% of my energy right now in this moment. It's 7 o'clock at night. And I want you to give me 100%. Can you give me 100%? Because I'm giving you 100%. So I think it's the same with, like, youth kids, like, choosing their sports is the parents can, like, help guide, but they can't constantly be like, you will be doing this, you will be doing that. Like, my parents, when I was young, tried to get me to do gymnastics. And they were like, you have to do it for 1 year. Imagine. Imagine. And I hated it. I cried every day. My dad drugged me and he was like, you will be committed. You've signed a deal, like, this is what it is. But it was more about, like, showing up every day and, like, being committed to it and teaching me the morals, not just being, like, I'm not exactly going to be, like, a Simone Biles, like, gymnastics queen. But, like, I was like, I just want to do soccer. Like, growing up, I just wanted to do soccer. So I think it's very interesting when kids do play double sports, because I never did. I only ever cared about soccer. That's all I ever did.
No, that's great. I think that's a great point, though, because, like, like, you know, as much as you want to be, like, the parent to say, like, you know, like, we're here to support, do what you want and everything, you know, if a kid, because there are players and there are kids out there, I've heard stories, you know, even at top levels where they, you know, they're going through the season and it's not going like, you know, they want, where it's like, well, I'm done with this. I'm done.
Yeah.
And then the parents are like, okay, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's go do something else.
Dude.
And it's like,
That's
no,
annoying as well. That's the other side.
and that teaches, like you're saying, like the morals and values of like being part of a team.
Yeah.
Right? Like the team is the most important thing. You know, you're signed up to play a team sport. You're not playing tennis. You're not playing golf. So like you owe it to the team at the end of the day. And then like, at the end of the season, if you still feel like, okay, sure.
That's fair. Yeah. But you made that commitment, you signed that piece of paper. And like, for me, like as a player, I don't know how you guys felt, but like growing up, I'd like look around and be like, these are my teammates. Like they're just built in like family like that. Sure. And like, I'm not best friends with everyone. I don't know everyone's like personal lives, but like when I stepped on the field, it was like, I'm going to work for you as much as you're going to work for me. Like it didn't, no offense, but I didn't really care about the coach. I didn't really care about like who was watching. I cared more about like playing because I wanted to win. But it was a case of like, if one like, what was it? If one piece of the chain link falls off, it's not a it's not a chain altogether. Something like that. My coach said that like if one of you is out of line, you're all going to be out of line type thing. So I think it's super important to teach the kids that as well. And like I agree with you. Like at the end of the season, if you gave it 100% and you're still not feeling it, you can quit. But I think parents, like it's teaching parents as well, like not to give up. When the kid says I don't want to, don't be like, oh, okay. And it's the other side of it where if the kid's complaining, for me, like I would complain and my parents would be like, okay, let's go speak to the coaches. I'd be like, no, let me deal with it in my own way on the field, because I didn't care about all that drama of like behind the scenes. Like I just wanted to play. And I think it's teaching parents that too, like, oh, my kid only got 6 minutes, but he got 7.25. Like, really? Is that like what we're doing? It just takes away from why we're actually here. Right.
Yeah. Pivoting to the college track process, I guess, what advice would you give to aspiring, not necessarily Division I, but aspiring college soccer players to get recruited? Yeah.
I think the first thing, I think one thing that, I mean, as a college coach, I get thousands of emails.
Yeah.
Like thousands. Yeah. And it can be overwhelming, don't get me wrong. But I think a lot of, if you're serious about, you know, playing college soccer, similar to like if you want a job, okay, you're not going to go apply for a job without really knowing what that job entails.
Studying on it.
So you have to do your research. I think you have to do your research about the school. You have to do your research about like the program, coaches. Like if you're really serious about it, then you should be willing to like put that effort in. So I think that's like the first thing. The second thing is like what I've told and what I've learned is like, I think it's best if you, and not just because like college is more than just the soccer and playing. Yeah. It's much more than that. You want to be able to find a place where like if soccer wasn't part of it, that you would still enjoy the college piece. Yeah. And so what I've kind of like, you know, try to teach players and what I've taught to clubs about is players should almost like build a list of, you know, 20 or so, 30 or so schools. They're starting right into it that fit their, you know, the factors that will help them make a decision at the end of the day. Right. And after once you get that list, then you draft like an email. It can be a basic general email, like an introductory email about who you are, where you're from, what team you're playing for, maybe like, you know, obviously like in the details, you know, position, grad year, right. You know, a little bit about yourself as a player, maybe what you're looking to study. Okay, I think all those things are important to kind of just give a brief, you know, intro of like who you are. And then, of course, you throw in a little bit of, you know, information about like the program to show that you've done your research. Yeah, I think that helps. Right. It's not just like a generic, you know, I've seen emails where it's not even addressed to the proper coach or the proper school, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, delete. Maybe I'm not going to respond to this one, you know. Sometimes I do. You just give a little dig back, but no, I think that's how you got to start it. You know, a lot of players these days with the technology they have highlight videos, which are great. Don't get me wrong, I'm not going to make a decision based off a highlight video, but I think it's good to have just to kind of give the coach a little bit of insight. Okay, like, oh, like this is what the player's all about.
Right.
I also encourage, because you don't want to just, send a highlight video, but like also like a half a game if you have that available.
Oh, interesting.
And you can say in the email like, oh, if you're interested, I have, a full game video or half game video if you'd like to take a look at that as well.
Wow.
But I think that's, just to get your foot in the door in that process, I think that's really important to kind of get your name out there. And then if you are able to, get on a call, get on or communication back and forth, I think that's good. It's good practice.
Yeah.
For further down the road as well. Yeah.
Do you find yourselves having like, because when I GA'd at Concord, I had in some of my emails, they would give me like their tournament schedules, especially for like local, neighboring states, everything like that. Because we would always go and visit local tournaments too, and they would give me their schedule. And I feel like that showed a lot of like eagerness. Like I know some players are like all in your face, but I feel like that's a good thing. Do you guys have that where students will
I think it's great that they share their schedule, whether it's like from their league, the events, like these are the events that I plan on going to. And then of course when that event approaches, that's when you can kind of throw in your detailed schedule, field number, time, jersey number, what color you're wearing, I don't know. But I think those little details are good to see. Now there's also coaches, you can also the guys who are doing their job, I feel like they're also going to know exactly like the schedule sometimes too. And they're going to these events as well. But I always think it's good. It's not an issue.
I did a college camp at Catawba, and we had like a Q&A with some of the students that we were coaching, and one of the questions was, what's the most like annoying thing about a highlight video? And one of the coaches was like, the music. If you pick the wrong song, I'm not watching it. What do you think your answer would be? Because I thought that was hilarious, because like for when I made my highlight video in like 2017, I was like, I didn't even care about the music. It was just like, just put whatever's not annoying, like elevator music or something like that, something that you can like sing along to. Because when I was watching highlight videos, my boss would make me sit and go through every video before sending the right ones to him. And some of the songs like that just stuck in my head when that coach said. So what do you think like would be your biggest turn off from a highlight video?
I mean, whatever you're putting out there is a reflection on yourself. So if you're putting out there like I don't even know
the edits, the flashbang edits,
like a lot going on. You're like, okay, what's this kid all about? Like I said before, it's like a job you're interviewing for. So if you're gonna put that out there, or do you think that's gonna help you get the job? Right. So I think again, I don't know if there's a specific song, but like I don't know if you should be putting on. I don't know.
Like swear words, things like that.
Swear words, talking about...
You can imagine.
Whatever it may be. I don't know. And to be honest, I usually don't even have sound. I put the sound off when I watch videos.
See, after he said that, I played the sound just to hear it, and then you just mute it anyway. But I think that's a good advice to put like actual true game footage, because I feel like we always spoke about it in our meetings. Is like they'll take obviously the highlight video is the best part of you.
Right.
You're not gonna put in where you like miskick a ball and fall over, just things like that. Like it's little snippets of what you thought was the best out of how many years that you want to even pull back. You don't know how many years they're pulling back. So I think that's good advice for game day footage. I like that.
Yeah. Is there a good way to stand out? I mean, you're getting 1,000 emails. Is there like, it's probably difficult to do it other than like how you're playing, but is there ways to like kind of stand out to get recognized or whatever? All caps. I don't know.
Yeah. Read me now.
I
urgent.
wouldn't say there's like one thing or another that can be like, oh wow, because the amount of emails you get, it can be overwhelming. But I do think at the end of the day, it just comes down to like, if your highlight videos looks pretty good, even though anyone can look pretty good in the highlight video, like you're
Yeah.
saying. That helps.
Right.
At the end of the day, we're recruiting like the player.
Right.
And I think that means something. Obviously, if you like putting a little detail into like, oh, like this kid knows who I am. He knows, you know, what we did this past year.
Right.
You know?
Right.
He knows our record. He knows.
That's interesting.
You know, how many players went on to play pro or something.
Right.
You know, he
Yeah.
or like what accolades they got. I think that shows that like, okay, you know, this kid's done his research.
Interesting.
But no, I mean, at the end of the day, through email, it's tough to kind of stand out.
Yeah.
It's just you gotta let your play do the work. Yeah.
Fair enough. For you guys, it's obviously how they play and who they are as a player. That's very important.
Mm-hmm.
For you guys at AU, do you take into account their personality, their characteristics? Do you look at social media presence and things like that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I mean, at the end of the day, like there are so many talented players out there,
Yeah.
and that are being recruited,
Mm-hmm.
right? But at the end of the day, like you're not just bringing in the player, you're bringing in the person to your locker room.
Right.
And you know, you could be a very talented player, but you know, if you come into the locker room and you know you're selfish, you're thinking about you're thinking about, you know, whatever, it's not going to work out well.
Right.
So we value those things, and so a character is a massive part. So we take, you know, I can identify, okay, that's a very talented winger. He's fast, he's athletic, he's good 1v1. But there are some of the things that maybe he doesn't even realize, or you know, the parent may not even look at. But it's like, what is that kid doing off the ball? You know, how is he talking to his teammates?
Right.
You know, what is his responses to like when the ref makes a call, which is good or bad, but what's he saying to the ref?
Mm-hmm.
And it's really like in moments where things don't go right for him.
Yeah.
How does he respond to it? You know, I've seen a lot of like, you know, a big part that shows a lot is like, all right, when he loses the ball or she loses the ball, do they stop playing or they try to win it back right away?
Right.
You know, they repass, counter press, whatever it may be. When their teammate loses it, are they the type of player that kind of turns their back or put their head to the sky, put their palms up, or are they helping win it back right away?
Yeah.
You know, I've seen players where they, you know, play this like magnificent ball where you're like, wow, that's a really good ball, and then the player on the receiving end, you know, takes a bad touch, and then that player is like putting his hands up like this. You're just like, well, is that kid about the team,
Right.
or is he about himself?
I want
you
him
know
to look good. That's really interesting that you say that, because I feel like, I don't know how it is on the boys' end. I can imagine it's the same, but like influencing the girls, like psychological aspect of the game, like you say, like I try to teach them, like it's not your action, it's your reaction. You know, when you make a mistake, my girls immediately, I'm like, what do you do when you make a mistake? And it synchronized, they'll be like, you fix it and you learn from it. And I'm trying to teach them, my U9s and my U10s, like, if you're not making a mistake, you're not on the field. That means you're on the bench. You know, and it's that constant reaction of like, can we go and tackle when we lose the ball? How many does it take to go and win it back? Like, I want 3 on the ball immediately. And it's so like eye-opening that you say that, because you're talking about recruiting for college, but we're teaching it when they're 8-9 years old. And it's things like that like they might not even make it to college. I don't know their lives in the next 10 years, but if they do, we're implementing that kind of culture, individual culture, team culture at 8 years old, with the futures, with the U9s, U10s, and building it all the way up. And they probably don't even realize it. The parents probably don't even realize it.
Right.
I don't even know if parents think about college when they're 8. You know, but that's really, it's nice to hear you say that, to know that we've been teaching them the right things. Because sometimes I'm like, am I stepping too far away from soccer and more on the more mental side? But for me, I didn't have mentors like that growing up. It was just get your stuff done and, you know, play and leave type thing. And I never had like a female mentor like that. I had my dad, but that was probably about it. So I'm trying to be that person that I didn't have. But it's nice to hear you say it from a, you know, years later perspective, of teaching the kids that. Hopefully they latch onto it when they get to you. That'd be great.
Has your coaching philosophy changed since beginning coaching and kind of your journey through Bethesda to now with AU? And what are some big things that you've learned?
I think the difference is, like, I've coached every single age, from like as toddlers to, yeah, exactly, you know, when I first started coaching to now, like, to college and whatnot. And obviously, like, development is key for all age groups, even in the college game. But like college game, there's, you know, obviously it's results driven.
Yeah.
And, you know, at the end of the day, if you're not, you could be developing some players, but if you're not winning,
if you're losing 8-0,
you're not gonna have a job for very long, right? You know. Right. So yeah, I think it has developed in a way whereby, like, yeah, maybe I'm a little bit more focused on getting these results at times, but like we pride ourselves in like trying to make guys better.
Right.
And we're not just like, oh, you didn't do well, I'm just gonna go ahead and another player and bring guys in.
Okay.
I think we want to, like, see guys through, and hope that they pan out. You know, if it's not maybe their freshman or sophomore year, hopefully it's by junior, senior year they do. But yeah, I mean, you know, when I was coaching for club, yeah, the focus is on development. It's not as results driven, but at the same time, you know, teaching winning is very, like, it's valuable. It's competitive.
Absolutely.
We're in a competitive sport. You know, I don't want to teach them that, like, it's okay to lose. You want to coach winners. Okay. Sure. You know, you can learn from losing, but don't be okay with losing.
Yeah. Don't walk off and be like, oh.
Yeah.
For dinner.
Yeah, right. Like, I want you to, like, if they lose, I want you to walk away from it knowing that, like, all right, what can we do to get better? You know, so teaching that value, even like at a young age, you know, it develops the competitive nature of it. Yeah.
So working off what you just said, do you think that, like, from your experience, like college, you obviously have freshman, sophomore, junior, senior, the team culture, I feel like a little percentage of it is learning from those older players, because I know when I was in college as a freshman, I didn't say boo to no senior, junior, because my coach was like, these are your top players, like, speak to them before you come and speak to me. And as we grew up, like, they taught us the culture, and we kind of stepped into the limelight of, we now have to teach the freshmen.
Yep.
So do you think building that team culture is, like, important, not just from your end, but teaching from freshmen all the way up to senior, that this is who we are, this is what we need. If you're not in line with it, you won't fit on the team.
Yeah. No, it's really massive. We tell our guys, like, you know, this isn't necessarily like our team, it's your team.
Yeah.
Like, the seniors, the leaders of the group.
You're the guiders.
Yeah. Like, you guys are gonna, like, you know, obviously we have the last say and everything, but you guys are gonna show, like, how things are gonna be run. You know, especially, you know, because we don't live with them. We're not there with them all the time. We're there with them a good amount of time, but what are they doing outside of, you know, the field, standards. Outside of, like, the locker room? You know, are you guys showing these guys how to, like, do things the right way? You know, when we came on as a staff, you know, there were, like, guys, and I'm sure there's some guys that still do it, but, like, skipping class. Yeah. Right. And that sets, like, a bad precedent, because it's like, all right, well, what does the professor think about, you know, the soccer team now?
Yeah.
All right. I got a soccer player. Great. He's just going to skip class. Right. So that's why and it starts top down. You know, if they see, like, the seniors doing it, the freshmen see seniors doing it, well, it's like, well, then it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
You know, if they see the seniors going out during the week or, like, the night before a game, well, it's okay to do that.
Yeah.
And that's not okay. That's not what, you know, what winners are going to do at the end of the day. So yeah, it is like the culture of the team. It really, like, starts, you know, we can implement, you know, and give ideas, but at the end of the day, it's like the leaders of the group that are running the show.
Yeah.
And making sure that the rest of the team is kind of following in line.
Yeah, I feel when I watch the boys play, or, like, they're at practice, and that's what I'm trying to implement with my girls, is, like, the boys, like, you can kind of tell who's kind of, like, respectfully top dog, and like they kind of like bounce off of them. And I think that's just like the culture that you've taught them, is like whenever the boys show up to practice, they give everyone a handshake. And like even with me, like they don't even know who I am, and they'll come and greet me just because they know that I'm a coach for PSA. Like that's the culture that the boys have set. And then when they're playing, you can kind of see the younger ones looking up to the older ones, even though they're kind of supposed to be in the same age bracket. And I think that's what I'm trying to teach my girls now, is like my U9s practice with my U10s, because I want them to learn everything that I taught the U10s by themselves in fall. We're now combined. I want them to learn that culture of like respect everyone at PSA, respect everyone that you see who's not at PSA, and kind of have that culture of like they're looking up to you now. And I tell my U14s, I'm like, my U10s are watching you guys and you're not doing what you're supposed to. Like they're all watching you now, and you can kind of see on their faces, they're like, oh, we're like mentors now, without even thinking about it, they're mentors. So I think that's really, I think team culture is like massive.
I think it's great, and I think that only helps, you know, the whoever is that older age group, it helps them become better leaders. And I think that's something that you really, and it starts at a young age. You can see like, okay, like who's the leader in this group or whatever.
You can tell by their attitudes and stuff, can't you?
And then sometimes, like, you know, kids kind of come into it as they get older. But I think that, like, it's very apparent, you know, who those guys are, and then, you know, what the younger ones kind of like, who they looking up to and stuff like that. Yeah, definitely.
For you guys at AU and in the college game, there's tons of international kids now, and especially the teams that are performing very well year in and year out. As recruitment is international now. They're coming from academies, they're coming from South America and stuff. How do you guys kind of balance your recruitment, and is there like a certain 50-50, 70? How many local guys are you looking at versus internationals?
We do things more traditionally. So we do things more within the states. Part of that is like we're limited in terms of by like academics. Right. You know, with like, you know, an English proficiency score of, you know, so and so, it's high for AU. At a lot of these other schools, they could probably get kids in who, you know, English is definitely a second language. You know, having said that, like, we have a few internationals. We're always going to look at the college landscape. The college recruiting landscape has changed drastically. Oh my God, within the last 5 years or so. There's more internationals. There's a lot older players. And it is it's tough for a lot of, you know, kids who are trying to be recruited now. Even at like the highest levels. But I think like for us, like when it comes to like international versus, you know, traditional way, like we're gonna recruit kids out of high school that are from the States. We're always looking at international because you do want to see like, because at the end of the day, you want to look at those players who maybe could be difference makers.
For sure.
Get the Scousers in, teach them how to play.
Right. But yeah, I mean, and so like right now we have a Japanese international, which took a while to get the English proficiency score, but he did it. Let's go. And we have a German. He's a bright kid. He didn't really need any issue with that. Then we had an Australian player who obviously they speak English. But we look all over for whoever can help us get to the next level at the end of the day.
Do you think there's a separation, or I guess what's your comparison between now the best youth teams in the United States, the youth clubs versus the college game? Is there going to be a separation now because of these international kids, or do you think it's still
within like college?
Yeah.
I mean, in a way, like like you could look at teams that have focused on doing it that way, whether it's Vermont or Marshall. You know, those are the two teams that were, you know, two of the best teams, right? Not only are they a lot of international players, it's also a lot of like they're older international players that have, you know, maybe already played in college and like are in the transfer portal, but also like played overseas for academies.
Yeah.
And some have even played at like the professional level, maybe under like academy contracts where they're not getting paid, whatever it may be. But those are the players they're recruiting. I mean, Vermont and for example, like we played them this past year. The youngest guy on the field starting was like 22 years old. And
that's crazy. There's no 18-year-old freshmen nowadays, and then you're asking 18-year-old freshmen.
We had 3 freshmen starting.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Like
I mean, we actually had a player play for us, not this past fall before that, graduated, did 4 years, and had a 5th year because of COVID. You get another year of eligibility, and went to Vermont. And so we saw him up there, and he's like, "Yeah, coach, I'm the youngest player in the starting 11." And we're like, "You already graduated."
Yeah. You're 6 years deep and you're a freshman.
and they're the way their recruiting model has gone is like, well, we're not going to recruit young. Like, why would we recruit an 18-year-old when we can bring in a 22-year-old or older? It's like, and you guys know the difference between, you know, that's a child versus
significant
versus a man, you know. And so, you know, the college. So yes, there will be that separation, but I do think there are, you know, you can still get the best like American kids in a way in, and you can still compete for sure. But you know, 10 years ago, you know, Marshall and Vermont were nowhere near where they are today.
Exactly. Right.
Yeah.
Like, what do you see for every kid's dream is to go and play like overseas, play in Europe, and pursue those sorts of things. There's a lot of organizations now that try and facilitate that a little bit, whether there's an educational component to it or it's like a study abroad type thing. What would be, I guess, your recommendation to players going overseas versus trying to stay local and pursue like the United States college route? Yeah,
I mean, that's like you're right. You do see that more and more. I think there are a lot of clubs that have like partnered with international clubs, and I think that's great. I think it like provides like opportunity, provides a great experience for them. But I think at the end of the day, it's if that's what you really want to do, if that's what the parents really want them to do, or they're going to support them that way. Okay, by all means, you know, if you don't value, you know, college education or whatnot, then it's okay, sure. But at the same time, it's like it's still like the percentage of players that go on to make it at that level is like, you know, very, very small, very small.
Yeah, significantly.
Yeah.
I guess, I mean, we've been chatting for a while now, but my last question is, do you have advice for both your younger self as a coach, and then do you have advice for young coaches just in general, wanting to aspire, whether it's like the collegiate game, the professional game? What advice would you give?
Yeah, I would just, I mean, find a good mentor. I think is really important. Find a good mentor that
you like that one.
I like
that I think that that works well with like what you value.
Right.
Because I feel like there's some that get attached to people who are in higher places, and they see that, oh, you're in a higher place, you have this role or whatever. I'm just gonna latch onto you, and I'll just make it there. But like, that doesn't maybe align with like what you
values,
what you value, right? And if you do that, well, then you're kind of just like turning back on like who you kind of are, right? And sometimes as a young coach, where you're still learning and developing yourself, which is fine. But I've been, one of the sayings I think that I've learned was like, it was kind of cheesy and cliche, but it was like,
we love cliches.
Yeah, it's like take the best and leave the rest. So it's like you can like learn a lot. Yeah, learn a lot from someone, but you can also say like, well, I don't think I agree with that, or I don't think that works with me, so I'm not going to use that.
Take it and remix it, you know, how you want it to be. Take the best, leave the rest. I like that.
But no, and then I mean, other than that, I think it's like it's building like a network at a
sure.
I think is really, really important. You know, some people, you know, they may overdo it and socialize too much and spread themselves too thin, where you're kind of like, well, you know, who's this guy all about? Is he just trying to like be my friend, or is he trying to like learn from me a little bit, you know? or what's he really like trying to do? You know, what are his real
His
intentions?
end game.
And so I think like you gotta. Oh, the other thing that I think is really important is like be patient.
Good advice.
Obviously, I think that like everyone wants to aspire to be like very successful and whatnot, but it's like it's a process.
Yeah.
And if you just see that end goal, or like making the steps to that end goal, then you're not going to enjoy what you're doing in the moment. And like I think that not to say that like I was like always like trying to fight for that next spot or whatever it was, but like if you don't really like enjoy like what you're doing in the moment, in the present, then you're really not gonna like, even when you get to that point, if you ever do get to that point, well, you look back on it and be like, well, what was it for, you know?
Right.
Yeah. But yeah, that's what I'll say.
Great advice.
Great advice.
Great advice.
I definitely agree with that. One day at a time. Just take it as it comes. Just everybody relax.
You have to get one little
There was
piece of,
someone
like-
that said, someone said to me, "You're living the day that you prayed for yesterday," or something like that.
Yeah.
Where it's like, in this moment now, especially, I feel like with whatever I've been going on with, is just like I wanted to be here like 5 years ago. This is where I wanted to be right now, you know. So it's kind of just like taking it in. But I like that. That was very good advice. Good cliches in there
So
as
much
well.
value. Good. Well, that's it from us, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
We
thank
wish you
you.
guys all the best in the spring, next fall.
Thank you.
Let's get after it. Get some dubs over Vermont and Marshall. Let's go.
God, we're on the schedules.
All right.
All right. Thank you, guys. PSA Playbook. See you next time.